So as this week is going to be our peer review week, I wanted to give you um, a few tools that will hopefully help you in drafting that discipline paper, get ready for peer review, and then successfully complete it on Sunday. One of the tools I wanted to equip you with was this uh, I call it a builder. I don't know why. I started calling these little outline activities builders in class one time, and I guess it just stuck with me. But the idea here, we're not going to spend too much time on this. I think it's pretty straightforward, pretty self-evident. If you find, hopefully you've started drafting. I mean, we've been talking about it for some time now. But in case you haven't, or even if you have already started drafting, I think this is a good um, supplement to whatever your writing process has been or will be. So that's what we're going to do here. The goal of this activity is to end up with something that can act as a sort of organizational or structural blueprint or schematic for your discipline paper. Um, in so doing, or as part of that, I've got some just major divisions here for the structure of a discipline paper. This is, big disclaimer here. This is not the only way to do it. This may not even be the best way to do it. This is a very sort of fundamental or basic understanding of how you might begin approaching the discipline paper. Um, I have an introductory section here. Um, Part of the body section. This doesn't mean a paragraph. This just means part of the body could be spent. If you plan on discussing the topic of AI and higher education from your discipline's point of view as a problem, that could be a section. Um, you could then sort of elaborate or zero in on what your disciplinary perspective is, what that means. And then once you do those two things, in other words, talking about the AI topic, in this example, a problem with your discipline, slow down some more talking about your discipline and what that means, then how might your discipline respond to that problem or propose solutions to that problem? That would be could be another section. Again, not one paragraph, but a section consisting of multiple paragraphs. And finally, you'll want to have some sort of conclusion or wrap up. So again, very basic. Let's go through a couple of these. Um, I'll have to say, in addition to the sort of standard or typical ways we go about an introduction or a body or the conclusion for that matter, that's what this outline is assuming. It's assuming that you're gonna situate your reader properly. You're gonna provide some background and context. You're gonna talk about a sense of urgency or exigence. Um, you're gonna bring in relevant source material or hitch your wagon to a star, so to speak, if that's what you plan on doing. But so in addition to all those things, you're going to want to, in the introduction, say something about your discipline briefly. As we just mentioned, you could have an entire body section devoted to slowing down and really teasing out and discussing your discipline. But here in the introduction, as part of your contextualizing, as part of your situating your reader, you'll want to say what your discipline is, what your field studies or works with or deals with, um, how you go about confronting challenges or solving problems. Just briefly gloss these ideas. This is not the place to drill down deep into them. Just gloss them here. Um, a little bit more on some of those ideas, perhaps especially when you begin to focus on the topic of AI in higher ed. Maybe the problems associated with it. all this introduction sort of outline builder, this paper builder is meant for you to just jot down some ideas here. So you can start getting those ideas from inside your noggin down onto the page. And that's the challenge, that's the discipline, that's the hard part. Um, Here I have a sort of, it's probably, I don't know, it may be a little confusing. Um, this is a very, very, again, fundamental way of thinking of a thesis statement. I'm not suggesting you follow this word for word necessarily, um, but just to give you an idea, again, of where this paper is supposed to head. It says here, from the perspective of whatever discipline you find yourself in, criminal justice or computer science, social work, whatever you're studying, from the perspective of computer science, let's say, um, that's what goes in this blank here. But look, here's another one: specific approaches or methods associated with my discipline. So, um, what would that be in computer science? Maybe software engineering. Software engineering can help address, and then here I have another fill in the blank area, um, a problem associated with AI in higher ed. Software engineering or prompt engineering can help address issues related to academic dishonesty in colleges and universities by doing what? How can that help solve that problem? Well, I'm not an expert in computer science, but you sort of hopefully you get the idea. You're making a claim that your discipline can approach any problem, for example, posed by AI in higher ed by employing a specific solution or response. That's the general idea of a thesis statement. Um, Here, in defining the problem, this is going to be important so that you're not leaving it up to your reader to just assume everything that you already know about your discipline, or the problem associated with AI in this case, in this section. It may be clear in your head, but make sure your reader's aware of it too. Um, AI in higher ed is currently being used to do blank. This creates problems such as blankety blank. You can add some more here if necessary. This matters because the people most of these are stakes and stakeholders. Defining the problem here is a very important part of the paper. Try not to think of this as just one paragraph. You could think of it, each of these bullet points as its own paragraph, perhaps. And one thing I just realizing it now, um, I didn't include here all the places that you could or should add source material, but I'm looking at this section here. This should have ample source material. Each time you make a claim that AI is being used to do something in higher ed, you should use source material. This creates problems such as blank found in this source, or this problem found in another source. This issue matters most because of something I found in another source. So here you're using source material to ground your claims associated, um, with whatever problem. In this case, the problem um, with AI in higher ed. Same thing with your discipline's perspective. Source material. Ground what you're saying. Root the things that you're saying in credible sources. The purpose of this part is to show how your discipline thinks or considers or studies or engages and contends with a topic such as AI in higher ed that is different and unique from other disciplines. In other words, what I'm saying here is please don't say, well, my discipline engages with problems like AI in higher ed in order to solve them. Well, naturally, so do a lot of other disciplines. What is unique or different? What special approach or technique or method or tools, machinery, whatever it happens to be associated with your discipline? Um, and then start getting specific here. People in my discipline would ask these kinds of questions, or they would consider, most importantly, these types of evidence. Um, you want to get to the place where you can start making constructing sentences like this. From my discipline's perspective, the real issue is not just this, but it's also that. Um, so be sure to specify, and again, not just one paragraph, but multiple paragraphs consisting of multiple um, instances of effectively integrating source material. This one, when you start getting to the place after you have defined the problems of AI in higher ed, if that's the direction you're going to go, you've specified your discipline's perspective and approach and methods, etc. You're going to want to start talking about solutions. And this is one of the reasons why we have done the major papers we've done so far. You know, how would your discipline respond? How would your discipline solve some of these problems? You can repeat this little sort of um, way of structuring or way of organizing your thoughts for as many solutions as you come up with, as you want to talk about. So again, try not to think of this as just one small paragraph. Think of this as a multi-paragraph section. And finally, some thoughts here in your conclusion. So again, this is not meant to be comprehensive and exhaustive, but just to get you going, especially if you haven't really started yet. This might help you jot some ideas down and find some footing so that you can make good progress this week and get prepared for peer review and for your paper being due in just about a week from now. Um, so I hope this helps. Let me know if you want to talk about it or have any questions or concerns or comments, and I'll see you in class.